All right, Hemp-sapiens, this is the first ever Venice Beach GreenerFest. We're starting off International Industrial Hemp Week. This week, we're going to honor Jack Herer, the Emperor. I'm going to have some great speakers and some great music talking about alternative energy, what industrial hemp could do for our nation, and why we need to legalize it this November. My name is Vivian McPeak. I'm the Executive Director of Seattle Hempfest up north. And the GreenerFest folks have been great to me. They brought me down here to do a little bit of emceeing work. I'd like to introduce my distinguished co-MC. He has been around this area for as long as you can remember. He was one of Jack Herer's oldest friends, was hanging out with Jack from the very beginning, when he just got the seeds of the Emperor Wears No Clothes sprouting in his brain. And he is a screenwriter for Kung Fu, the television series Kung Fu, Star Trek, Ocean's 11. I'd like to give it George Clayton Johnson.
Hi, I'm George Clayton Johnson, as the man said, and perhaps the man who knew Jack Herer the best. The thing I liked about Jack was that he was very self-aware. He knew that out of 3 million plants, he's going to reach out and find one, and he's going to tell people that it's good for food and fiber, fuel and medicine and lumber and paper and dynamite and cellophane. He's going to tell them it's good for all of these things, and of course they won't believe him because they think all he wants to do is get high. Now, it's a fact that with all these other wonderful things, the plant has a mild euphoric in it. It gets you high. It relieves your anxiety. It lowers your stress level. It reconciles you with the universe. And because it is too perfect and has this strong medical use as well as its use as a fiber and as a fuel and as a food, let's just say take the seed itself. It contains like 19 amino acids. It only takes 9 of those to make a complete protein. It's got linolenic and linoleic acid, high-test polyunsaturates. It's got omega-3, 6, and 9 in it. It even contains vitamin B5. In the Middle Ages, they used to crush it and make cereal out of it. But when they crushed it, that little seed is grit, pure grit. And unless you get that seed off of it properly, it makes for a really ugly meal. They called it gruel, but it was an almost perfect food, and that's why they were able to make those peasants slave as hard as they did. The main thing about it is, by hanging out with Jack, it became clear to me that hemp can still save the world. Hemp can still save the world. And that Jack, as a science fiction character who has brought this substance that was called hemp forever until they called it marijuana and vilified it, and then people didn't know what they were voting against because they didn't know that marijuana was this hemp plant that they had been familiar with all of their lives. Anyway, I learned a lot of very interesting things about hemp from Jack, and he passed his fever on to me. He has 2 jobs. One was to legalize hemp, and the second was to get all of those prisoners out of jail that are in there for marijuana-related offenses. That is exactly what he wants us to do, because it's just completely unjust. And I'll point at a specific case, Eddie Lepp. Eddie Lepp is serving 10 years now for growing more medical marijuana than anybody.
I could have played it.
Isn't that ironic? Medical marijuana, and the guy is serving time for it. We're living in science fiction times, and we need to remember that social acceptance, that popular culture rules. What the people do works, because we're still a mobocracy. We call it democracy, but we are really a mob. And from time to time, when we get inflamed, we burn cities. We are one very, very strange animal, and so the politicians watch us. What's socially acceptable will soon become quite legal. Popular culture rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. That's George Clayton Johnson, who'll be back periodically throughout the day to give you some nuggets of wisdom.